of the events or a repetition of the events that have taken place here in Los Angeles recently, we have to go to the root. We have to go to the cause. Dealing with the condition itself is not enough.
Dear Mr. Massa, I'm just trying to mind my own business. What's the matter? It's just another day, another black king captured. I'm about to lose my brain, stuck inside this ghetto rapture. I got a lot of smoke. If you want it, you can have it. They want a hat trick, but this is black girl magic. Ain't talking about the kind that'll make you disappear, but I'm talking about the power of the melanin within. Ain't looking for trouble, but I'ma say this one time. I put two dukes up if you try to touch mine. We still want justice for Samir and Trayvon. You say you don't see color, but racism ain't blind. They targeting little kids whose skin look just like mine. So I'm paranoid, it's a war zone outside. And I'm a black queen, so if you ask me to step out of my car, you gon' have to snatch me. Cause I ain't going no damn well. Had to spend my whole life living unfair. Ancestors got my back and they right here. You can never understand, it's a nightmare. Living in my black shoes by the black rules. You can keep your handshake, I don't dap coons. The white man will go nuts if he cash you. But you all on his side like a damn fool. Make it make sense.
We are oppressed.
Queen.
We are exploited. We are downtrodden.
Make it make
Queen.
We are
sense.
denied not only civil rights, but even human rights.
Ahmadiyyah.
So the only way we're going to get some of this
Ahmadiyyah.
oppression and exploitation
Queen.
away from us or aside from us is come together
Queen.
against the common enemy. Who taught you to hate the texture of your
Ahmadiyyah.
hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin?
Ahmadiyyah.
Parents, pay attention to the books, the school system, even to your little children. Lies mixed with wisdom. His skin too bright, so he was blind to the prison. My skin just right, so I collide with division. You trying to pray to God, but we tired of religion. No savior saving, we got to save our savings. We used to pay miss, how we gon' make the slave rich? But who's to blame, and tell me why you complaining? We need a team effort just to rule the nation. Like a bad relationship, missing communication. We missing moderation. They're trying to get a poison to my population. No reparations. I'm getting tired of Satan.
We are oppressed.
I'm
Queen.
getting tired of waiting.
We are downtrodden.
Queen.
We are denied not only civil rights, but even human rights.
Ahmadiyyah.
So the only way we're going to get some of this
Ahmadiyyah.
oppression and exploitation.
Queen.
Every time for the sex game, my kick, the words, my faith, can't even only be money saves. It's like an earthquake, don't call you out. Queen of close and just get it from the back. Such enough to play easy, just a more for all.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning back in once again to the original Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur show. I'm your host, Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur, and this is your Sunday Vitamins. So as you're coming in, please feel free to go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Be sure to click that notification bell and click the word all so you're notified each time the Queen Goddess goes live. Okay, so I just got some more interesting news, so I was getting that receipt together. Okay, so let's get into it. Hey, Jeff ATL, Pearlie's in the house. Michelle is here. We the people. Red Wine Entertainment. Anita, Brand Slayer TV. All right, everyone, please hit that like button if you could be so kind. Remember, it doesn't cost you a thing. Hey, 504 NOLA, Deronda's in the house. Okay, so we're about to get into it. Everyone, please don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Dr._A_Shakur, TikTok at Dr. A Shakur, and Twitter at DGoddess27. Hello, Meaty and DSB. Okay, and also, if you don't like what the Queen is cooking, you already know what to do. So let's get into it, beloveds, because I'm just getting word that the Pentagon, hold on. So I just saw a video on X where they said, hey, most hated bronze flip hair guy. I just saw a video on X where they said the Pentagon has been meeting. This is reported by CNN, supposedly, saying the Pentagon is meeting about Trump. So we'll get to that momentarily. Okay, so likes up, everyone, please like and share. Hey, hello, Pierre. All right, 504 NOLA in the house. Okay, so let's get into it. Let's get into it. A lot of receipts. First of all, there's analysts are saying that Trump's plan to deport all of these migrants is not really going to be feasible because they say it's going to cost billions of dollars. Okay, now remember I told you guys on yesterday, those of you who were tuned in, that the United States uses these migrants for cheap labor, and they don't want to stop doing that, quite frankly. So Trump saying that he's going to mass deport all of these people is a problem for them. Okay, so please pay attention. And also, I thought it was interesting that there's a video of a group of migrants coming to the U.S. trying to get here real quick before Trump takes office. So let's go to it. I'm going to share my screen so you all can see this. Okay, like stuff, everyone, please don't forget to like and share. Thank you in advance. It doesn't cost you a thing. And shout out to my moderators putting in work.
Tonight, hundreds of miles south of the border in Mexico, a caravan of migrants chanting, "We are not criminals," is rushing to make it to the U.S.-Mexico border before the Trump administration is sworn in. Many carrying their belongings in plastic bags and on their backs, and already starting to voice their fears about not being able to cross into the United States come January. "I think it will be much more complicated now," says this man who's traveling from Venezuela. "Now we are thinking about finding a way to get through before Trump takes the presidency." DHS officials telling NBC News that they have not yet seen a surge in migrants heading to the United States, but that they want CBP and ICE officials to be prepared.
One of the first calls I'm going to make is to Mexico. You stop letting people come in through our border.
Trump now vowing to deport millions of undocumented migrants, saying his plan has, quote, "no price tag." He's also threatening to impose a tariff of 25% on Mexican imports unless Mexico's government curbs what he describes as an onslaught of immigration. Those promises now creating uncertainty and anxiety among migrants making the taxing journey. This caravan, which set off with nearly 3,000 people on Election Day, has dwindled to just about half of its original size, according to Reuters. This man from Venezuela saying now that Trump has won, he doesn't know what to do, but returning to Venezuela for him is like being shot in the head. Migrants in Mexican border cities waiting for legal entry through the CBP-1 program now also worried their plans might be upended. Some, like this woman, are anxious that the appointments they've waited months for under the CBP-1 program could be canceled.
Él inició la conversación felicitándome.
On Friday, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum saying she had a, quote, very friendly phone call with Trump in which they congratulated each other's presidential wins and said there will be time in the future to discuss the border issue. Time that many migrants now fear is running out for them.
Okay, Ellison Barber joins us now in studio. So, Ellison, going back to that CBP-1 app that you mentioned, this is something the Biden administration set up. Has the Trump administration or the Trump team said anything yet about what they're going to do with that?
So it's interesting because they obviously spend so much time talking about their plans as it relates to the U.S.-Mexico border. But in terms of comments about CBP-1 in particular, really not a lot of detailed comments from Donald Trump himself. However, back in mid-September, we did find where he mentioned CBP-1 in a post on X and Truth Social. He said in part this, quote, "We will stop all migrant flights, end all illegal entries, terminate the Kamala phone app for smuggling illegals," put in parentheses there, CBP-1 app. And then he went on to list a couple of other things. So he talked about it.
And that could be kind of chaotic because people are in the queue already.
Right. People are in the queue. And what he hasn't said, which is what's making so many people panic, he's made this comment saying, I would terminate that app, but hasn't said when that would happen, hasn't said how or how it would fit into his broader immigration policies moving forward. And that's part of why so many people are like, we don't know what's going to happen next, but you said you might get rid of this. Even if it was in that one post, it's leading to a lot of additional questions.
And I'm sure we'll learn in January as soon as he takes office. Ellison, we thank you for this.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about.
I want you all to pay attention. Okay, they're trying to get over here while the getting is good, as far as they can see. Okay, We Next, aka DSB, says, don't be surprised if the Dems cites a hate crime bill for them folks. Remember, they pissed the black community off for their own laws. Yeah, exactly, beloved. Okay, thank you for your insight into the topic and your contribution to the channel. Peace, love, and blessings. Exactly. We absolutely cannot be surprised. And here's the thing. You know, what a lot of people don't realize is why a lot of these migrants come here. They feel like they're entitled to come here, literally. Okay, somebody said that, I forgot who said it, but said they're walking in like they're going to the store. They feel that they're entitled to come here because you know what? The U.S. basically destroys their economy. See, that's what some people don't know. The United States destroys the economies of many of these where these migrants come from. And so they come here because their economy is trash. Okay. And the U.S. sometimes has a lot to do with that. So please pay attention. Now, with that all being said, I just find it all interesting because they said we're getting over here while the getting's good. But now these analysts are saying that, in fact, if Trump wants to have these mass deportations, it's going to cost in the billions. Okay, so we're going to talk about that. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. And also, some of these people on X, formerly known as Twitter, have plotted to get Trump taken out. Now, my question is, have those people been arrested? Okay, I have several questions. All right, hold on, beloveds. Let's get into it. Let's get into it. Okay. Now, these were people that were trying to contact the man who formerly shot Reagan. Okay, hold on. Let me find my receipt. I got 2 emails I'm using. Hold on. Hold on, beloveds. Okay, here it is. So, new disturbing Trump assassination request addressed to Ronald Reagan's would-be assassin on Secret Service's radar. Now, this is all very interesting, okay? I want you to pay attention because these people are the same ones who said if they're going to act like Trump's people are so problematic, but aren't they? Okay, aren't they? So shortly after Donald Trump won the 2024 election, okay, ex-users banded together to enlist Ronald Reagan's infamous shooter to target the new president-elect. Now, the internet appears to have a job for former President Ronald Reagan's would-be assassin, John Hinckley Jr., because you all remember he's been freed. Okay, they put him in a mental institution for like 30 years and they let him out. Trump said they should not have let him out, but they did. Okay, so anyway, John Hinckley Jr., who shot at President Reagan in the 1980s. Not everyone has been on board with President-elect Donald Trump's political comeback, okay, through this year's high-stakes election. Now, as a result, some have resorted to doubling down on unsettling rhetoric, which saw a jarring surge in assassination requests on social media after the president's presidential results poured in. I mean, you have to be really a special kind of dumb to be doing that on social media. Now, ex-users have seemingly enlisted the attempted assassin to take a shot at endangering Trump's life. Hours after the re-elected U.S. president won the 2024 election, a great number of people charged to the platform. Okay, and as per TMZ, these heinous requests came up after Hinckley shared a link to his community website on Tuesday, November the 5th. Now, the would-be assassin who took a swing at claiming Reagan's life in 1981 opened fire outside the Washington Hilton Hotel in D.C. However, his recent social media update saw him promoting his new music, which ultimately offered a platform for these unwarranted pleas. Now, the troubling requests these ex-users have been doing, they're urging him and saying things like, we need you more than ever now, John. Hailing him a hero over other responses recorded a person claiming that he and his pals can pool together some cash for an important job for Hinckley. Okay, please pay attention. These people are a mess. Okay, and let's not forget about the hate crimes, running over the 80-year-old man and all of that. And then this is what I didn't know until later. When I further reviewed that story, because I showed you guys the video of the news report yesterday. So upon further review, I come to find out that the man who ran over the 80-year-old then went home and took himself out. That's what they did. Okay, so please pay attention. These people are clearly unhinged. Now, and I told you they were crazy. Okay, I told you anybody this mad and acting like this, these people are clearly insane. Now, another chilling message catches a user saying, all very big fans of your early work. You should definitely go back to that now more than ever. Okay, so encouraging the assassination of Trump. Now, the 78-year-old president-elect has already been the target of 2 unforeseen assassination attempts during this year's presidential campaign. The major security lapse ultimately put the concerned authorities under scrutiny, kicking off a chain of internal investigations, personnel shakeups, and whatnot. Now, on top of that, Trump even addressed Hinckley's case after he was granted conditional release in 2016. Okay, Trump said he voiced his concerns at the time, noting that the shooter should not have been freed. Okay, after the infamous shooter made the news for the incident in the 1980s, he was then sent to a psychiatric institution for 3 decades. He appears to have switched his ways around and is now deemed not a threat. Okay, for his part, Hinckley even condemned Trump's first would-be assassin, Thomas Matthew Crooks, who took a shot at his life in July at a Butler, Pennsylvania rally. Now, Reagan's shooter wrote on Twitter or X saying, "Violence is not the way to go. Give peace a chance." I'm telling you, these people are something else. With the rising number of X requests urging this man to pull a history repeat, a Secret Service source eventually told TMZ and the Mirror US that we are aware of the social media posts, but we are not commenting on matters of protective intelligence. So no word as to whether or not any of these people have been arrested, paid a visit by the Secret Service, or any of that. But I just find it all very interesting. These are the links that they will go to. Okay, so please pay attention. Okay, please pay attention. These people are something else. And mind you, these are Kagame supporters. Okay, Trisha says, can these people just sit back and see what happens like everybody else? These mofos are crazy. Yeah, exactly. And that's what I've been telling people. I said at the end of the day, candidates say things when they're running. Okay, some of the things they're going to do and some of the things they can't do and some of the things they never intended to do. But at the end of the day, let's just sit back and see how it all plays out. Okay, at least do that because we've heard what Trump has said. Now, the things that he said he's going to do sound good thus far. We don't know if he's actually going to do them or if he'll be able to even do them, but they sound good thus far. So I think that people should wait. Why are you getting this upset to the point that this is what you're resorting to? Okay, it all reeks of crazy people. All right, that's what it sounds like. Now, Jeff ATL says, translation, hurry up, let's get to the border before the beginning of Trump's term. That's exactly what that translates to, beloved. Okay, that's exactly what it translates to. Fat Boo says, they got their hands on some guys. Yeah. Okay, this is all a hot mess. Hey, Locked Queen Candy J. Okay, so anyway, honey, I don't know what to say about these fools. Hey, that Crazy Beach Aries. So let's continue. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. Okay, so I'm going to pull up a few different news articles. Well, not a few, it's actually a lot. But we're going to talk about it. We're going to go with different news outlets so we can get different perspectives. Okay, we'll get ones that favor Trump and ones that favor Kamala at the same time. All right, so we're going to start off with, hold on, this is the wrong one. Hold on. Yeah, so we're going to start off with Simone Sanders. Okay, we're going to start with Simone Sanders. Simone Sanders Townsend slams Nancy Pelosi, saying, where is your calculator now? Okay, this was a report from yesterday. He's going in on Nancy Pelosi. Okay, here we go. Likes up. They're actually having a panel discussion. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. Thank you in advance, beloveds.
Both back with us. Leah, I want to ask you about something, a headline from NBC News. Trump just realigned the entire political map. Democrats have no easy path to fix it. Quote, in short, Trump has been able to engineer a near wholesale rightward shift in the electorate in ways that he couldn't in 2016 or 2020. The trends have blown up long-held Democratic and Republican narratives about how Americans vote. It's leading Democrats to sound the alarm about the party's future as Trump's Make America Great Again movement grew to become the most diverse GOP coalition in generations and gave Trump the most decisive victory for a GOP presidential nominee in 2 decades. So a bunch of questions for you, Leah. Do you buy that? How are you thinking about this moving forward? And how much of this do you think is an actual realignment? And how much do you think is very Trump specific?
Well, I don't quite buy it because President Trump got exactly the same number of votes that he got in 2020. So there wasn't a growing of the number of people who voted for him. What Democrats have to look at is why is it that 10 million of our voters stayed home? why they didn't. Where were they? What happened? And that is a failure on our part, perhaps partly messaging, but also just in the tactical strategy of turnout, of voter identification, and getting people out to vote. So this wholesale, well, he grew all of these people and all of these new voters. What new voters? He got the same number he got the last time. And so we got work to do on what happened to our tactics, what happened to our strategy, what happened to identifying voters where they are getting what happened to the people who voted for us the last time who just sat it out this time? That's the work that has to be done.
I think that's such a key and important point, because to Matthew Dowd's piece as we started this hour, in fact, Trump got less. He underperformed his vote from 2020. The difference maker in this election were the 10 million Democrats or independent voters who did not support. So, Eddie, I also take exception to this idea that what Trump did was orchestrate a rightward shift in the electorate. No, what Trump did was took advantage of a rightward shift in the body politic and the electorate that has been occurring for some time. He saw how to maneuver and position himself and saw that opening with young men on platforms, on the digital platforms that Democrats largely ignored. They did not play in the digital verse the way Republicans had for some time. Talk, if you can, about this idea of this rightward shift. Now, I've always looked at the country as mostly center-right in its understanding, meaning that it's on fiscal matters, it's a lot more conservative. On social matters, it tends to be a little bit more moderate. But what we're seeing now is beyond that. And it's sort of a leaning in towards a nationalistic, paternalistic view of the country and how we look at each other.
I think this is a really important question, Mike, that we need to shift from why did Vice President Harris lose to what kind of country are we, right? And I think what we've seen over the last 40 to 50 years, and it's culminating in Trumpism and MAGA Republicanism, right, is this kind of toxic combination of selfishness, greed, and hatred. And in some ways, it's all about an evisceration of any notion of the public good, an idea that my own concerns, my own well-being animates how I move about the world, that a notion of my relationship to my fellows, what is a notion of baseline understandings of who we are and our obligations to each other. All of that is just out the door, and people are just out for themselves. And so when you have portions of the electorate that are selfish, I don't care if he's a convict, he gave me a check. Right? Or you have folks who are greedy, that are the billionaires who want to control everything. And then you have folks who are fearful that the country's changing. And so what Donald Trump has done is he's, shall we say, exploited that. Now, I think we need to also say, in light of that shift, and we could call it neoliberalism and the crisis of it, or however we want to describe it. But the Obama coalition may very well be dead. But I do know this, too. The third way Democrat is dead. Now, the interesting thing about the conversation that we're having about the post-mortem is that folk will want to lurch back to the right with regards to the Democratic Party. But when they're lurching back to the right, they're going back to what the DLC did, which is in effect concede the ground to Reaganism, concede the ground to the philosophy that has produced this selfishness, this greed, and intensification of hatred in some ways. And so part of what we have to do, I think, and I'll be quick here, is to be honest about where we are. And if we're honest where we are, it's not about what Kamala Harris didn't do. It's about who we are.
We don't want you to be quick, Eddie Glaude. We don't invite you on here to be quick. Take your time. You've got 3 hours.
I mean, this whole yes, that is it. It's not about, how can we, I've been very dismayed actually by this whole working class voter conversation, because are Black people not working class?
Okay.
are like, if you really want to boil it down, if it was really about the issues, if it was really about the message, how did the message break through to Black working class people and it didn't break through to the majority of anybody else? And I see y'all white women and Hispanic voters out there that are in my inbox right now saying, but we voted for her. Yes, but let me explain this how this works, okay? As a Black woman in America, if something happens and somebody does something, then it's like, I understand I didn't do it, but we got to address the things for everybody else. So this is the box that we're in. I understand there are white women out here that voted for Kamala Harris, but baby, 52% of y'all voted for Donald Trump. And this was not the first time. So now for the third time. So y'all got to come together and address it internally. So I understand you didn't do it, but enough people did, but y'all got to have a conversation. So that's just how I'm just helping you understand. This is just how it works. But it is the opportunity for the Democratic Party apparatus is actually within the base of the party and the people that did not come out. They were fighting the couch this entire election. The Democrats were. And so the question is, why is there this insatiable need, Bishop, to go to the immediate response was, okay, well, the party is just, too progressive, too this, too that. I mean, you have Democratic lawmakers. Seth Moulton, got up there saying whatever he thought he would say. My former boss, Bernie Sanders, said, Democratic Party has abandoned working class people. That is actually not true. Now, we can talk about how we talk about it, right? We can, and this is probably not a popular conversation as Democrats to have, but perhaps maybe too much union, not enough worker. Okay, so to be clear, I'm sorry, but I love the unions. I love them. They do good work. You better thank your union for the 40-hour work week and overtime pay. However, everybody in the country is not because of some of the laws that are in Republican governors in many places. Everybody, there not as many people are members of the union. So if you're talking about union members versus workers, there's another thing. And there are Black and brown people in that category.
Okay, so I'm going to stop right there. I've had just about enough of them. We're going to move on to talk about why did young men switch over to Trump? All right, that's what we're going to be talking about next. With that all being said, We Next, aka DSB, says, I'll tell you why the Dems lost. We said cut the checks and hate crime bill. They said no. Stop playing dumb, you idiots. Well, that's absolutely the truth. That is absolutely the truth. We've been saying that since 2018. Have they been listening? They heard us saying it, but they didn't care. And, at the end of the day, people can say, well, the Republicans aren't going to do that either. The bottom line is, as I continue to say, we have disproportionately voted for them over 50 plus years. They owe us, but they act as though we owe them. That's why Biden felt so comfortable saying, if you don't vote for me, you ain't Black. Okay, they feel like they feel entitled to our votes, but also at the same time feel that we're entitled to nothing that we ask for. Okay, we're asking for tangibles. They could have at least, given us one of the two, but no. And thank you, beloved, for your contribution to the channel and your insight into the topic. Peace, love, and blessings. I'm going to share my screen. Now, this is a report from CNN.
Did an election that was supposed to revolve around women's issues actually come down to the plight of men, young men? The 2024 race long ago turned into the boys versus girls election, with polls showing Harris performing significantly better among women and Trump among men. But the question was, how big will the gender gap actually be? Well, we all know now it was big enough to hand Donald Trump the presidency. More than half of the male vote nationwide, 55%, went to Trump, 42% to Harris. Men under 30 saw a dramatic shift from supporting Democrats in 2020 by a 15 percentage point margin to swinging back to the GOP by 13 points. A CNN exit poll also found men under 30 in Pennsylvania favored Trump by 21 points. In 2020, Biden won that same group by 9 points. A part of President-elect Donald Trump's campaign strategy involved using hypermasculine voices like Hulk Hogan and Kid Rock, UFC CEO Dana White. Democrats may have miscalculated the strength and importance in appealing to men. On their party's website, under the headline, Who We Serve, Democrats showed a diverse list of minority groups, including LGBTQ+, Americans with disabilities, Pacific Islanders, Native Americans, women, many other communities. No mention of men. You might remember back in August, I noted this, made reference to the omission in a conversation that I had with Professor Scott Galloway.
The Democratic Party right now, Michael, is facing the same issues as some of the DEI apparatus at universities. And that is when you are purposely and explicitly advocating for 76% of the population, are you advocating for them or are you discriminating against the 24%? And that's how I think a lot of young men feel. Quite frankly, they just don't feel seen by the Democratic Party.
In the final months of the election, Donald Trump reached out to young male voters on popular platforms that they subscribe to. His campaign even consulted Trump's youngest son, Barron, on where to find this audience. Trump did lengthy interviews with Joe Rogan, Theo Von, Logan Paul, bussin' with the boys on Barstool, Aiden Ross. He played golf with YouTube pranksters known as the Nelk Boys. His 3-hour interview with Joe Rogan last month reached 55 million listeners and resulted in Rogan's late endorsement for Trump on election eve. After clinching the presidency early Wednesday morning, Trump and his family and his campaign surrogates took to the stage to thank their supporters. UFC CEO Dana White gave a personal shout out to the manosphere.
I want to thank some people real quick. I want to thank the Nelk Boys, Aiden Ross, Theo Von, busting with the boys, and last but not least, the mighty and powerful Joe Rogan.
Joining me now is NYU Business School professor Scott Galloway. He's the host of the podcast Professor G. Great to have you back. We've all heard of toxic masculinity. What is aspirational masculinity?
Good to be with you, Michael. Aspirational, feeling good about being a man, believing you are entitled to more economic opportunity than is currently presented. Look, you referenced this, so I feel like most of the stats I was going to discuss, you've already kind of stolen my thunder, but essentially this was supposed to be the election, the referendum on bodily autonomy. This was the testosterone election. Look at who Trump went out, look at who and what he went all in on. Crypto, Elon Musk, rockets, cars. You talk about podcasts. There's a difference between being right and being effective. Whether we can discuss whether his policies are right or not, but gosh, talk about effective. That number you mentioned, a total of 55 million people listen to or watch the Rogan podcast. The average age is 34, skews male. Just to talk about broadcast television, some of the best shows on MSNBC, seen as a left kind of leaning network, get 1 million viewers and the average age is 70 and it skews female. So what would be more effective? 1 million 70-year-old women or 55 million 34-year-old men in your state, the swingiest of swing states? Young men were 9 points towards Biden in 2020 and then 18 points toward Trump in 24. That's a tectonic shift. And it all comes down, in my opinion, to the same thing. A 30-year-old man or woman isn't doing as well as his or her parents were at 30 for the first time in America's history. And if your son isn't in a relationship, can't afford to buy a home, is anxious, is depressed, are the rights of Palestinians, territorial sovereignty of Ukraine, or trans rights, does that even register on your screen? This was the testosterone podcast election.
Okay. I'm going to have to agree with him. I'm going to have to agree with him because at the end of the day, all this stuff they had going on with these other countries and all that stuff, we have all these problems right here of our own. And that's what should first be focused on. James Allen says, Queen, been working all week. Thanks for all you do on this platform. Well, thank you, beloved. And thank you for your kind contribution, your kind words. And I appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessings. Okay, hold on just a second, you guys. Hold on just a second. I forgot to put my ringer on Do Not Disturb. Now, this is a report. This is a report from MSNBC. It says the weekend hosts give a gut check after Harris loses to Trump. Okay, so let's get into it. Let's get into it. Likes up, everyone, please. A like and share. Thank you in advance. Okay. Hey, y'all. TV says, please look into Michelle Childs. Okay, thank you, beloved, and thank you for your contribution to the channel, your insight into the topic. Peace, love, and blessings. Okay, so now let's go to this video from MSNBC with Simone Sanders again. Likes up, everyone, please. Like and share. Thank you in advance.
4 days removed from Election Day, and there's a whole lot to unpack, and there are races still to call. Late last night, NBC News projected that Democratic Senator Jackie Rosen will hold on to her Nevada Senate seat. NBC News has yet to call Senate races in Pennsylvania and in Arizona, but we know Republicans will control that chamber. Look at the map. Okay, the math is mathing. As for the House of Representatives, there are 19 races that remain uncalled. Republicans need to win just 6 of those seats to control the House. And with Donald Trump in the White House, we must remind ourselves that, none of this is normal. He's returning to office having been convicted of crimes and with retribution on his mind. Vice President Harris and Governor Tim Walz had this message for the road ahead.
Look, we know what's coming down the pike. We know it because they told us. And we're going to have to be ready to defend the progress that we've made here in Minnesota.
This is not a time to throw up our hands. This is a time to roll up our sleeves. This is a time to organize, to mobilize, and to stay engaged for the sake of freedom and justice.
Paying your bills on time raises your credit score, right? Wrong. In fact,
Okay, Cyrus, thank you for your contribution to the channel, beloved. I appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessings.
So where do we want to begin?
Let's begin with, okay, so I guess we could start at the presidency, right? There has been, and for folks watching throughout these 3 hours today, we're going to unpack all of the races. We're going to talk about all the different intricacies. We've got great guests to do that, people who know and like literally were on the ground. But I guess I have just talked to a lot of strategists, people who worked on the vice president and governor's campaign, people who worked in the states, and Democrats were just kind of, I guess, disappointed, really, really disappointed, because she ran a remarkable, she gave it her all. There are gaps in the campaign that we have seen, but she gave it her all. And to watch her go out there this week, I mean, she walked out to that podium and you heard a little shake in her voice, but she got through that speech. And I just think it was really important for people to hear. But, every Democrat statewide won in North Carolina except Kamala Harris, that was on the ballot statewide. There is something that, just Black women operatives have been talking about, just saying, we're tired.
She underperformed her numbers from 2020, the Democratic numbers from 2020. That's problem number one, despite an incredibly good ground game. Republicans didn't need a ground game because they played in the digital space. They had been targeting and reaching their audience long before. Because I was wondering, where was the ground game? Well, now we know. It wasn't on the ground. It was in the air.
Okay. So they're basically saying that both candidates underperformed. That's what they're saying, that both of them underperformed. And here's the thing. We can't really say that it was Kamala's fault at the end of the day, because like I told you guys, Joe Biden probably should have stepped down a whole lot sooner. He initially said that he wanted to be a one-term president, that he just wanted to beat Trump. And so, but then you know what happens, why he chose to run again? Because it's power. Once people get a taste of power, they want to keep it. And that's what I think Joe Biden did. He should have stepped down a whole lot sooner or never even started to run. Had he stepped down sooner, they could have had open primaries, okay? And then things could have turned out differently. But, unfortunately for them, he did not. Okay. Now, this is another report from MSNBC, I do believe. Let me see here. No, this is from Fox News. They say no Republican candidate has ever been able to do this, according to an expert. Okay, so let's get into it. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. Thank you in advance.
Flexibility. Catholic voters helping President-elect Trump secure his victory after Vice President Harris repeatedly snubbed them on the campaign trail with moments like this.
with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade, and they did as he intended. Oh, you guys are at the wrong rally.
Here to discuss the lessons learned from this election is President of Catholic Vote, Brian Birch. Brian, so great to have you on this morning. As you know, Catholics went for Donald Trump by 10 points. So why don't you just lay out what are your takeaways from this campaign, both what Trump did right, what Kamala Harris did wrong?
Sure. Well, I think it was a combination of factors, Rachel. I think, number one, Kamala Harris had a problem with Catholics and had a record of hostility toward Catholics that she only made worse. Meanwhile, I think President Trump spoke to the concerns of many workers and families that just want to return to normal. They don't want radical abortion. They don't want Catholic hospitals being shut down. And they want normal gas prices and normal grocery prices, a normal border and normal girls' sports where boys aren't hanging out in their locker rooms.
Yeah, I mean, Biden actually, I mean, look, the difference between Kamala Harris's politics or policies and Joe Biden is really not that different. And his abortion record is almost as radical as Kamala's was going to be. But the point is that Joe Biden was culturally Catholic. And I think that's why he was able to, I think he tied with Trump in 2020 with Catholic voters. Am I right?
It was a couple points. You're right. No, and even the numbers you just showed, I think, are actually even smaller than the real margins. You know, we show that President Trump won Pennsylvania among Catholics by 16, Michigan by 20 to 25, Florida by as high as 29 points. And more importantly, and I know this is important to you, Rachel, Hispanics overall by 7 points.
Yeah.
No Republican candidate has been able to do this.
Yeah, it's absolutely fascinating. You know, the left has often tried to use immigration as a cudgel against Catholics to say, well, if you oppose, if you're not for a secure border, or if you're not for open borders, I should say, then you must not be compassionate and you're not being a Christian. You're not being a good Catholic. It didn't work this time. Why?
Well, I think it wasn't just a question of, accusations about racism or about being an anti-immigrant. It was a questions about a normal, lawful, humane process that America can welcome immigrants into this country. And it turns out that's what Hispanic voters wanted as well. President Trump was right. He is not the man they accused him of. He's the one that can help restore order to this process where America is a welcoming country. We just want to do so in a way that is humane and is consistent with our laws.
Yeah, the other thing that the Trump campaign did that Kamala Harris did not do was in putting aside the big policy stuff, he made gestures. I mean, he would post things like the prayer of St. Michael. He had the Ave Maria, played at his rally. There were other gestures that he kept making sort of a tip to the hat to the Catholic voters. I think he went to a shrine for a Catholic priest and
Now, let me tell you all something. James Allen says, can we all say this beautiful Sunday, weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning. Stay blessed, Royals. Thank you, beloved. And you're absolutely right. Joy does cometh in the morning, honey, and troubles don't last always. Now, with that all being said, pay attention to what they're saying. You see, the Catholic people say that they feel like the Democrats disrespected them. Remember when they had that roast and Kamala didn't show up? And then, they felt like they were being disrespected. Now, why do you all think that Trump was basically pandering to the Catholics? Trump was pandering to the Catholics, okay? At the end of the day, think about it. His running mate, J.D. Vance, is Catholic. Now, does anybody have a clue why Trump did that? See, this is why I told y'all Trump was playing chess and the Democrats were sadly playing checkers. Because here's the thing. Trump he picked a Catholic running mate. Now, this is just my opinion, because for one, and the reason he was pandering to them is because Catholics are absolutely against what? They're against abortion. And Kamala's campaign was run on abortion, reproductive health and abortion. That's what they kept talking about. That's what they continue to reiterate the entirety of the campaign. So with that all being said, Trump was doing the opposite of that. He knew that what she was doing was going to turn off Catholic voters. And here's the interesting thing. Biden It is culturally Catholic, according to them. So a lot of people that were Catholic voted for Biden when he ran. Those same people turned around and voted for Trump because Kamala ran her entire campaign based on abortion, which they're absolutely against. So that's why, that's one of the things. But also, I told you guys that I believe that Kamala should have chosen Shapiro as her running mate, Josh Shapiro. Okay, she chose Tim Walz, but Josh Shapiro, in my opinion, could absolutely have helped her to win Pennsylvania. And let's not forget all the Amish people in Pennsylvania. They're saying that those people actually came out to vote. Okay, they're saying that the Amish people actually came out to vote. So please pay attention.
Polish priests in Pennsylvania. How much did those little gestures mean in the long run at the end of the day?
Well, I think they made a difference because Catholics did have concerns about Harris's record with Catholics, and she only doubled down on them. She snubbed the Al Smith dinner. She told Catholics that there would be no accommodations for us when it came to her abortion policies. And President Trump did the opposite. He posted about our feast days. He mentioned us in our rallies, and he chose a Catholic vice president in J.D. Vance that turned out to be a superb choice that I think many Catholics rewarded him for.
Yeah.
Do you all see what I'm talking about? And this is why I kept asking throughout my reporting. I kept saying, who is Kamala's campaign strategist? Because how come they didn't think of these things? Even if they wanted to promote the abortion or whatever, the women's reproductive health and all of that, they should, in my opinion, they should have given some sort of, done something, given some more respect to the Catholics. She should have gone to that roast. Or she should have tried to accommodate them in some way. Maybe that would have helped. But at the end of the day, this is why this happened. Okay, this is absolutely why this happened. And, like I said, but the major part, the first big mistake was Joe Biden not stepping down in time. Joe Biden said he wanted to be a one-term president. He should have stuck to that. But like I said, when people get power, they do not want to get rid of it. And so he really left Kamala with like almost a no-win situation because she didn't have very much time to get her campaign together and all of that. Not to mention all the other things that happened during that time, or all the other mishaps, shall I say.
Was that a big deal, you think, in the end, J.D. Vance?
Without question. I mean, I think many Catholics that I know looked at JD. They know he recently converted to the faith. He is one of the best, most articulate spokesperson of our kind of solidarity idea in our church, that we have to care for each other. And I think he has, a big future ahead of him as well.
Okay, so you all heard it right there. Now, with that all being said, let's go to likes up. Everyone, please like and share. Thank you in advance. Okay, where do I want to go? Okay, here it is. Let's go to this report about Biden. Okay, this is from First Post. Okay, Biden smiles winks in final speech as Democrats unpack Harris's loss. Her loss. Okay, so let's get into it. Now I'm going to put an overlay over this really quick.
President's unexpected loss to Donald Trump, Democrats are now analyzing what went wrong. Some point to a cautious campaign, while others point to President Joe Biden's choice of passing the torch to Kamala Harris. The White House, through Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre, has defended President Biden's decision, calling it the right choice. Yet concerns about the Democratic Party's strategy and messaging persist. Was this simply a campaign misstep, or are there deeper issues at play? Our next report examines the challenges facing Democrats.
Democratic nominee for president, Vice President of the United States.
It was supposed to be Kamala Harris's moment. After Joe Biden's reluctant decision to pass her the torch, the Democrats believed they Some blame Harris's cautious campaign. Others point to Biden himself, accusing the 81-year-old president and his inner circle of recklessly setting up the party for failure.
Biden may not have seen it, but those around him knew. Biden's physical decline might doom the party.
And yet they let it happen. The post-mortem of this campaign reveals the full extent of Harris's loss, a loss that went far beyond swing states. She lost ground everywhere, including in blue strongholds. And the numbers are jarring. Biden pulled 57% of women. Harris dropped to 54%. Biden carried 71% voters of color. Harris fell to 65%.
So anyway, now I'm happy that he's back, so we can get in, things going. Right now, everything.
Republicans piled on the pressure and said that Harris and her running mate Tim Walz seemed to go into hiding, avoiding interviews for weeks after the convention.
It was expected. He clearly has been having serious issues with his cognitive function for a while, so it was no surprise. But, these calls that Harris is going to be any different. She's actually worse than Biden. They've run the country into the ditch, and she's the border czar, and, the American people are hurting.
Okay, so you all heard that. Said it was he claims that she's worse than Biden. Now I don't know about all that. Okay, I don't know about all that. But everyone, please like and share. Now let's listen to what Van Jones says, because Van Jones and Scott Jennings, and this is a report from CNN. Van Jones and Scott Jennings discussed it, and basically they gave advice to the Democrats, okay, in the wake of Trump winning. Also, Van Jones says that they ran a 1996 campaign. Okay, here we go.
Not good at coming here and faking and pretending like no, we got whooped. We got whooped, and we didn't understand that we ran a campaign that would have been great in 1996. We had TV ads and door knocking, and these guys built an online infrastructure with the Joe Rogans and everything else. If we thought Rush Limbaugh gave us trouble in the 90s, or Fox News gave us trouble in the early 2000s, they built 2,000 Fox Newses and 2,000 Rush Limbaughs all throughout the internet, and we didn't even know they were doing it. And we got egg on our face, and we got a big job to look at ourselves in the mirror and figure out how we got beat this bad.
Scott, what if you were put another hat on for a second? If you were going to talk to Democrats from your perspective, and go easy, but what would you pick out and advise them? Where did it go wrong?
Well, I think the Democratic Party, in the eyes of a lot of working class voters, in the eyes of a lot of men who overwhelmingly turned out for Trump in this election, kind of view the Democratic Party as a professional fainting society. We're offended by everything. We don't, have our eye on the real ball here, which is people being crushed in the economy, or we don't have our eye on the border. We don't have our eye on the world chaos. What we have our eye on is running around scolding everyone and being offended by everyone. That's no way to run a political party and then be surprised when average, everyday working people turn out against you. So if I were the Democrats, it's a time for soul searching. I feel for Brother Van a little because, the Republicans have been there too. But the reality is you just have to ask yourself a couple of questions. Who are we, and who do we stand for? What do we represent? What are our actual values? And I think if they asked themselves those questions and answered them honestly, they'd find out that the only people they really stand for are very wealthy people who were not as crushed by inflation, people who have college degrees, who live in and around college campuses and in urban areas. That's it. That's pretty much what the Democratic Party has been reduced to.
What do you say,
Van?
Van?
It's not true. Hey, listen, I think the Republicans have done a brilliant job of framing us that way, and I think we've helped them a lot, because a lot of the stuff that we say does fall into the pity party, crybaby society stuff. I think that's right. But the tragedy to me is that what Joe Biden and Kamala Harris actually did, and what they're promising to do, really was responding to working class needs. A lot of stuff in the Inflation Reduction Act was really trying to help ordinary people. They ran on a campaign to try to get $6,000 to everybody who's having a new baby, $25,000 to people who want to have a house, to help small businesses. There was an agenda there, but we did not do a good job of talking about it. The crybabies took up all the airspace, and then they built a machine. Don't forget, the Republicans built a machine online to magnify our mistakes and to mask their failures. And what we did was run a bunch of crappy ads that everybody hated and spend $1 billion doing it. So there is a core there that is good, but we dropped the ball in the parking lot. We thought we were on the football field. We weren't even on the football field. We were in the parking lot.
And I'm glad that Van Jones is telling the truth, because that's what I told you guys. I said at the end of the day, it was obvious to me that Trump and his campaign, they were sitting back watching everything that the Democrats did. And I told you all that everything that the Dems tried to bring against him, he turned it into a positive, because that was good marketing. Okay, think about how the whole thing with McDonald's, when Kamala said she worked at McDonald's and then it came out that she didn't really work there or whatever as a teenager, and then Trump went and worked at McDonald's, that was all marketing. When Joe Biden called Trump supporters garbage, Trump went and got a garbage truck. This was all good marketing. He took the things that they were throwing out and he switched it into his favor. That's what I'm talking about. And Kamala, that's what I was saying that she should have been doing the whole time. Now let's talk about this immigration plan. Because according to analysts, as I've told you, they say Trump's plan to deport millions of immigrants would cost hundreds of billions. Okay, and this is according to a CNN analysis. So, in the last month of the presidential campaign, former President Donald Trump is doubling down on his promise to carry out the largest mass deportation effort in American history. Now, in Reading, Pennsylvania last week, Trump drew fervent applause from a rally crowd after saying that he would get these people out and deport them so rapidly. Now, in Aurora, Colorado on Friday, Trump told rally goers that he would rescue Aurora and every town that has been invaded and conquered. Immigration researchers, lawyers, and economists have pointed to the immense constitutional, humanitarian, and economic problems posed by Trump's oft-repeated pledge. Pay attention. They said economic problems. That's what I told you all yesterday. Okay? This is what I was talking about. Now, but beyond the anticipated damage to immigrant families, communities, and local economies, the roundup and deportation of 11 million people is near impossible to bankroll, according to an analysis of U.S. budget and immigration court data done by CBS. So even if Congress approved the hundreds of billions of dollars in spending, deporting every undocumented immigrant living in the U.S. would take far longer than 4 years, according to the analysis. Now, they say apprehending and deporting just 1 million people could cost taxpayers about $20 billion. Deporting 11 million people over 4 years would cost more than 20 times what the nation spent a year over the last 5 years on deporting people living in the U.S. But most of that would be new funding that would have to be approved by a majority of both chambers of Congress. Assuming Trump did get the funding and could rapidly expand the staffing in immigration enforcement in courts, the backlog of cases would continue to grow, not decrease, by millions of cases. And this would be based on what's happened in the last 2 administrations. Okay, now Trump's own administration, despite promising to deport millions in 2016, deported 325,660 people during the fiscal years that he was in office. Now, the cost of deportation to taxpayers. Okay, over the last 5 fiscal years, it cost an estimated average of $19,599 to deport just one person, according to a CBS News analysis of federal data. Now, this figure is based on budget allocations for each step of the deportation process. The apprehension of an undocumented immigrant living in the United States, detention, the immigrant court process, and transport out of the country. Now, from 2021 to 2023, as migrant crossings at the southern border reached record highs, Immigration and Customs Enforcement deployed roughly a sixth of its workforce typically dedicated to deportation to the border to assist Customs and Border Patrol. Now, they say the crossings have since declined. So ICE also diverted resources to removals under Title 42, an emergency health authority enacted during the pandemic that allowed Border Patrol to turn away migrants attempting to cross the border. Now, fewer people were deported from the interior of the U.S. during those years than in prior years, which drove up the cost of deportation. But even when Trump was president and the number of border crossings were lower than they were during the post-pandemic spike, the cost of deporting one person was still $14,614. Now, to deport all 11 million undocumented immigrants estimated to be living in the United States at that time would have cost about $40 billion to $54 billion over the next presidential term. Okay, up to $216 billion in total. ICE was allocated only $9 billion last year. Well, here's the thing. Had all that money not been going over to Ukraine, they'd have those billions of dollars. Please pay attention. Hundreds of billions went to the war in Ukraine. Now, even the lower end of that annual estimate, $40 billion, is enough to provide 20 million families each with a child tax credit each year, and is more than double the Federal Emergency Management Agency's entire budget. Okay, so over 4 years, the sum, $160 to $216 billion is comparable to the cost of constructing around 500,000 new homes across the country. Okay, so just to give you an idea. Now, a similar analysis from the American Immigration Council put the total cost of deporting 11 million people even higher. They said that it would likely cost about $315 billion. Okay, Trump has said that local law enforcement will help with mass deportation since they know their names, they know their serial numbers. But experts say it's not that simple. They say one of the assumptions in the Trump proposal is that those local police and sheriffs are going to cooperate. Now, this is what Abigail Andrews, the director of the Center for Comparative Immigration Studies at the University of California, San Diego, says. She says, we know from the last couple of decades that one of the major ways for cities and states to dissent around immigration processes has been for the police to cooperate or not cooperate with ICE. Trump has said that he will deploy the National Guard to identify and detain immigrants who have entered illegally. That plan could face legal barriers since the law prohibits the use of federal troops for civilian law enforcement unless authorized by Congress. Now, Trump responded to this by arguing that undocumented migrants aren't civilians, which this is all interesting because from DOD Directive 5240, they can come down here and assist the law enforcement in shooting people if there's civil unrest. Okay, so please pay attention. Now, with that all being said, they said there's no way to do this without major civil liberties violations. This is what Donald Kerwin, editor and founder of the Journal on Migration and Human Security, said, and says that at the end of the day, it can't possibly be anywhere near 11 million. Now, Trump promised a mass deportation when he ran for office in 2016. But during the fiscal years that ran through his term, ICE deported, like I told you, 325,000 plus. Now, a mass deportation, depending on its scale, likely wouldn't be complete in 4 years. Immigration courts in the U.S. currently face a backlog of 3.7 million cases. Okay, this is according to records obtained by Syracuse University. So it would take the immigration court system at least 8 years or even more possibly, okay, and 700 additional judges, almost double its existing workforce to eliminate the existing backlog entirely, okay, according to a study by the Congressional Research Service. And I want you all to pay attention because I did all this research and found all this stuff out basically to see the data, to see the analysis, to see if it was feasible. Because as I told you all, some of these things that both candidates said that they were going to do, they're absolutely not going to be able to do. Okay, it all sounds good, but like I told you, you can't depend on them to do everything that they're saying because some of it was just for votes. Some of it was things that they just thought they can do. And some of it was things that they absolutely had no intentions of doing. Okay, and like I told you on yesterday, with geopolitical economics, they enjoy, and I'm talking about the government and the people that own these organizations and all of that, the people who are really running this country, because remember, presidents are just figureheads. With that all being said, these people enjoy the cheap labor, and you think they want to get rid of it? Okay, this boosts the economy, whether we like it or not. That's what it does. Okay, so anyway, those who receive a notice to appear in immigration court can be scheduled for court dates years into the future. Okay, please pay attention. Now, using a tool developed by Kerwin and his son, independent researcher Brendan Kerwin estimated that the backlog of immigration cases would be 13.5 million by fiscal year 2028 if the courts received 11 million new cases. So the tool takes into account the rate at which immigration judges process cases, the number of new cases each year, and the number of judges hired. The Executive Office of Immigration Review, which oversees immigration courts, planned for 150 new judges in the fiscal year 2024. Okay, but mind you, they said they would need at least 700 to get rid of all these 11 million immigrants. Now, if the government hired 150 new judges each year for the next 4 years, sending 11 million undocumented immigrants notices to appear would leave the courts with 13.5 million case backlog, with a 13.5 million case backlog by fiscal year 2028. So they say Trump could take steps to eliminate that legal process for some immigrants, which could lead to a smaller backlog. But under a 1996 law, those who were apprehended within 100 miles of the border within 2 weeks of their illegal crossing could be deported without a court hearing. Okay, now the Trump administration previously expanded that law to apply to the entire country and any undocumented immigrants who enter illegally and had been living in the U.S. for less than 2 years. And also, they say that mass deportations would reduce jobs. Now, this is what they're saying. Beyond the cost outlined, deporting millions of migrants could also negatively impact the U.S. economy and job market. This just goes back to what I told you yesterday. This boosts the economy, okay? And they don't want to get rid of this labor. Now, one study found that Obama's Secure Communities program, which deported nearly 500,000 undocumented immigrants, not only pulled those immigrants from the workforce, but had a ripple effect of decreasing the employment and hourly wage of U.S.-born people as well. Okay, so that could absolutely, they're saying this could impact the U.S.-born citizens. Okay, scaling their findings, the researchers estimated that for every 1 million unauthorized workers deported, 88,000 native-born jobs would be lost. An analysis from the nonpartisan Peterson Institute for International Economics released last month reached similar conclusions. Now, researchers found that a mass deportation of even just 1.3 million undocumented immigrants would lower GDP and reduce employment in the U.S. by 0.8% by 2028. A larger mass deportation of over 8 million immigrants would have a larger effect, lowering employment to 5.1% below the current baseline. And so these undocumented migrants also paid $59.4 billion in taxes and $37.3 billion to state and local taxes, according to a study by the Institute on Taxation and Economic Policy. More than a third of those went to Medicaid, Social Security, and unemployment insurance. Okay, like I said, boosting the economy. Over 4 million families could be separated. Now, mass deportation would not only reduce jobs for citizens, but impact family members who are citizens. They are roughly 4.1 million mixed. They said there are roughly 4.1 million mixed status families living in the U.S., according to data from the Pew Research Center. About 4.4 U.S.-born children live with an undocumented parent. Now, children whose parents are deported often leave school. They end up with trauma, mental health challenges, behavioral issues. And this is according to Andrews, the UC San Diego researcher. They say spouses often have to deal with not only the incredible emotional cost of having their partner deported, but also with the economic cost of having to relocate or having to take on another job. And the immigrants facing deportation, according to Andrews, end up extremely disoriented and in an existential limbo. Now, the economic costs will be extremely high, but the social, emotional, and community costs will also be extraordinarily high. Okay, and so all I'm saying is I'm going to tell y'all what Biden said. You all remember when Biden said the immigrants are the future, get used to it? Okay, so Righty said, speaking down on working class men and worrying about gender issues lost them the election. Yeah, that had something to do with it, definitely. Rashid said Trump is going against the transhumanism agenda, an agenda of ancient and evil. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. Now, before I get into the next clip, we're going to have a word from my sponsor. Now, New Orleans Yahuwah's daughter says Trump is going to place strict laws on these sanctuary states and cities. He likely will do that. I absolutely believe so. Okay, likes up, everyone, please like and share. Thank you in advance.
Do not buy 12 Tribes on Earth hair growth oil and hair magic elixir unless you want super healthy, gorgeous hair that grows. They have a whole line of amazing hair growth products, including hair growth leave-in conditioner spray, hair growth shampoo, hair growth spray, and hair growth butter. I'm starting to sense a theme here. They include quality natural ingredients. They smell amazing, and you can see the results for yourself. So if you're looking for healthy hair growth for your natural or relaxed hair, try 12 Tribes on Earth today.
Okay, so you can purchase your 12 Tribes hair oil at Etsy.com. Just look for Lisa Crafts. You can also find it at Walmart.com. Okay, so let's get into this next clip. Now, this is from the New York Post. Okay, Biden's internal polling had Trump winning 400 electoral votes, according to an ex-Obama official. Now, I want you all to pay attention to this video because this right here speaks volumes as far as I'm concerned. So basically, they're saying that they knew that Kamala had no chance of winning. This is what they're saying, that they knew. This is the Democrats saying that they knew she had no chance of winning. And so this is just all real crazy to me. And that's why I said the Democrats have no one to blame but themselves. Please pay attention.
And they were privately telling reporters at the time that Kamala Harris couldn't win. So they were shivving Kamala Harris to reporters while they told everyone else, not a time for an open process, and his vice president can't win, so he's the strongest candidate. Then we find out when when the Biden campaign becomes the Harris campaign, that the Biden campaign's own internal polling at the time when they were telling us he was the strongest candidate showed that Donald Trump was going to win 400 electoral votes. That's what their own internal polling said.
Jack.
So you all see that? So it looks like they were lying all along, okay? At the end of the day, this is what their own internal polling said, and you think they didn't know this? Of course they did. So anyway, with that all being said, likes up, everyone, please like and share. Now here's what Putin had to say about Trump's attempted assassination. And some of the other world leaders also came out and said some things. Some of them in favor of Trump, some of them not, because clearly some of them are U.S. allies, and so they didn't want Trump in.
The world are preparing themselves for Donald Trump's return. Some countries are worried, including traditional U.S. allies and, of course, America's enemies. But there are also other feelings going around, like hope and even excitement. So let's look at some of these reactions, starting with Russia. Here's what Russian President Vladimir Putin said.
First of all, I can tell you, his behavior at the moment of the attempt on his life impressed me. He turned out to be a courageous man. A person shows himself in extraordinary circumstances. This is where a person shows himself. And he showed himself, in my opinion, in a very correct way, courageously like a man. I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate him on his election as President of the United States. I have already said that we will work with any head of state that the American people have given them the mandate. This will indeed be the case in practice.
Putin has made his first public remarks on Trump's victory. He began by praising Donald Trump, calling him courageous for reacting the way he did after the attempt on his life. Putin then congratulated Trump on his election win and said that he would be willing to work with the incoming U.S. president. Basically, Putin is open to resetting ties with the United States, but the ball is in Trump's court. Russia is waiting to see what he does once he takes office. And Putin isn't the only American adversary who reacted this way. There was also Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro.
We did not do well in the first administration of re-elected President Donald Trump. It is a new beginning for us to bet on winning, and for the United States and Venezuela to do well. We always advocate for Latin America and the Caribbean to do well. As much as there have been tensions in relations when they tried to attempt against Trump's life twice, I do not hesitate for a second to express my solidarity and wish him good health and a long life.
Maduro acknowledged that he did not share a good relationship with Trump, not during his first term anyway. The two were at loggerheads. Trump exerted massive pressure on Venezuela, hoping for Maduro's ouster. But despite this, Maduro sees this as a new beginning, a new win-win relationship with Donald Trump. Maduro also mentioned the assassination attempts. He expressed solidarity with Trump and wished him a long life. It's quite the shift in tone. So both Russia and Venezuela are looking for a reset. Now look at the third reaction from Argentina.
I congratulate President-elect Donald Trump for the great victory in the elections held yesterday. You know that you can count on Argentina to make the United States great again, and we know that we can count on you to make Argentina great again. I wish you the greatest success. Success and blessings. Long live freedom.
That was Javier Milei, the president of Argentina. Milei could not be happier with this result. He had backed Trump from the very beginning. Milei sees him as a natural ally, so he's thrilled. And he isn't even waiting for Trump's inauguration. He's flying to the US next week to meet Donald Trump at his Mar-a-Lago residence and congratulate him in person. Joining them will be a mutual friend, Elon Musk. Musk has backed both these leaders, so he may be able to help strengthen ties. That's what Javier Milei will be hoping anyway.
Okay, so they said it seems like there's good days ahead. Well, we're going to certainly see. Now, meanwhile, let's talk about the Pentagon, because as I told you guys, I got this information right before I went live. Okay, it says, these are the scenarios the Pentagon is gaming out. Hold on, is this the right one? Hold on, beloveds. Hold on, let me roll this back. Okay, so the Pentagon has been discussing, and I find this all interesting, what to do if Trump issues controversial instructions. Okay, so obviously they think Trump's going to tell them to do something crazy, so they're already plotting and getting together to come up with their game plan. Please pay attention.
With you.
For defense officials here who we've spoken to, of course, is how Trump is going to wield U.S. military power here at home. Is he going to make good on his previous pledges to potentially deploy active duty U.S. troops to American cities to engage in domestic law enforcement and to help with his mass deportation plan? That is something that officials here have been discussing in terms of how they would actually respond to that. What would a response look like if the president were to actually order active duty troops to these cities to engage in this kind of domestic law enforcement? And if he did, a former senior military official who served under Trump said that that would be very significant. It is not something that the president would be able to necessarily water down to the American people. It would be, quote, a very big deal. And another thing that officials here are gaming out is, of course, what is going to happen if Donald Trump reinstates an executive order known as Schedule F, which would essentially reclassify a large amount of apolitical civilian employees across the federal government, including here at the Pentagon, and allow them to be more easily fireable. That is something that defense officials here are scrambling to address before he enters office, trying to kind of whittle down the list of people who would be at risk of being moved into that category, because of course they're trying to create, as minimal of a disruption as possible to the day-to-day operations here. But clearly they are concerned. They're having these conversations about whether there would be resignations, for example, if an unlawful order were issued, and importantly, what the chain of command would look like if Trump did issue that kind of order to deploy those active duty forces.
Okay, so now I'm going to go to this clip from Piers Morgan's show where he actually had Mark Lamont Hill and Candace Owens on there, and they were having a bit of a back and forth or what have you, and talking about some of the reasons they think that it went the way that it did, the election that is. So, and also, I meant to mention to you all, Sarah says, I love when the Queen reads. Thank you, beloved. Okay, so I meant to tell you all, do you all see how tall Barron is, Trump's son? He is 6'9". Okay. Trump is 6'3". Donald Trump Jr. is 6'5", but Barron is 6'9". He is tall as hell. Okay, I just noticed that the other day. He is literally tall as hell. Okay, so now with that all being said, let's go to this Piers Morgan. Well, first, before we go to that, let's go to Trump clearly trolling when he's watching Kamala give her concession speech. Okay, he's watching it, I think, with Oliver Stone. Trump watching Kamala's speech with Matt Gaetz, Susan Wiles, and Tulsi Gabbard. Okay, that's who he's watching it with. Let's go to that. Likes up, everyone, please. Like and share. Thank you in advance.
Thank you. 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 Thank you.
Oh my God. Is she crazy?
Thank you. Thank you
Wow.
all. Thank you so very much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Oh, too many. Thank you. It's about 20. There must be 35.
Traveling from India
That's
to
good.
California with an unshakable dream to be the scientist.
How many people are watching?
Can we tell how many, Dan? How many people are watching?
She's talking about how great San Francisco was before she destroyed it. A lot of talk about childhood. We've got to get to the border, inflation, and crime.
He's not proposing a single policy, not one policy proposal.
Harris's biography won't lower your prices at the grocery store.
Or at the pump.
Out there putting veterans out on the streets. So
33,000 homeless veterans. Gotcha. Okay, say these out. The things of which she complains. Things of which she complains.
In many ways, Donald Trump is an unserious man.
Oh, you hear that, Phil? It's great, right? Ready? These prosecutions were all started by her and Biden against their political opponents. Me. Get that out right away.
Have of caravans heading to the border, people showing up to the border with Biden-Harris t-shirts. Everything we have of people swarming the border.
She paid bail for rioters in the Minnesota Freedom Front.
Hold on, are you all hearing this? They said that the migrants showed up to the borders wearing Biden and Harris t-shirts. Now they need to stop. Are y'all paying attention? Not wearing Biden and Harris t-shirts.
Paid and raised bail. She paid bail to get the violent rioters in Minnesota out of jail.
2 months let Minnesota burn. Kamala
I love it. Put it in there. Put it right in with the stuff, right?
With that hook,
Yeah. But you could do it either that or separate.
say more lies, lying about the Project 2025.
Oh, lying against Project 25, which she knows, and so do all Democrats, that I have absolutely nothing to do with.
She says we all know what a second term will look like. You can say yes, no inflation, secure borders, the best economy in the history of the world.
She said chart a new way forward. She's turning a new way.
Chart a new way forward.
She's done nothing but harm.
I think we have a graphic about black earnings being down 6%. If we haven't already hit that, let's hit that one.
She's talking about the middle class, but she's the one that broke the middle class and made it unsafe.
She wants to give free Social Security and Medicare to illegals, bankrupting the system. Kamala Harris and Joe Walsh are extremists on abortion and abortion up to.
Now I'm trying to figure out who this guy is talking into the cell phone, because he keeps saying things that he's claiming she's doing. He says she wants to give Social Security and Medicare to illegal immigrants who put nothing into the system. Are you all hearing what he's saying? Now, who is this guy? But at the end of the day, The classic one says, bottom line, mass deportation is not going to happen, folks, for many reasons. Right. It's not going to happen. They'll deport some of these people, but there's no way they're going to be able to get rid of all 11 million of these immigrants. And then pay attention, like I just showed you on the video, there's many of them coming across the border right now as I speak, trying to beat the deadline before Trump actually gets into office. Okay, because they said themselves, you heard them, they said it'll be harder then. All right, but keep in mind, as I told you earlier, that the United States messes up these countries' economy, okay, with their own nefariousness, and then these people run over here. That's why they feel entitled to come here. Okay, this is what our government has been doing. Let's just say allegedly, but please pay attention. Now I'm going to go to this clip. Of Piers Morgan. Okay, he's got, like I told you, he's got Candace Owens on there and Mark Lamont Hill. And Candace and Mark get into it. They get into a bit of a kerfuffle. Okay, going back and forth. The likes up, everyone please like and share. Thank you in advance. Okay, so let me go to the timestamp. I'm going to start at around the 12-minute mark. Okay, here we go.
As he said, I can get you back working again. I know what you're going through and I can fix the economy for you. And hear me out. Yes. I'm not saying that's wrong.
Hold on, you guys. I'm going to play a bit of music just so I don't have any copyright issues and put my overlay on there. Likes up, everyone please like and share. Thank you in advance. Another Queen Ahmadiyyah production.
I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm saying that if you have $1 billion, you might be able to do that, although I hate billionaires. And if you have no money, you might be representing the interests of the rich. Again, we can't assume a one-to-one correlation between people's own identity and status and what they're representing, because when we do that, we make a lot of dangerous assumptions. So I'm not going to reject LeBron James because he's rich. I'm going to reject him if I were to, because I don't agree with his argument. Similar to Donald Trump, I happen to agree with LeBron James, though, in this particular case, that Donald Trump did not best represent the interests of the people. But while I don't think identity politics should govern our decision-making process, I also don't want us to be naive either as a nation. I don't want us to assume that nobody rejected Kamala Harris because of her womanness, or nobody rejected Kamala Harris because of her blackness. And the reason why I say that is because when we look at the campaign trail, when we look at the surrogates for Trump and other people, or people who just don't like either of them, but are still calling Kamala Harris a whore or a slut or the N-word. I mean, these are things that absolutely suggest that misogyny and misogynoir play into it.
Candace, you want to respond?
Yeah, if I may respond. First and foremost, Trump has never tried to say, I am a blue collar worker. So that's just completely wrong. He actually leans into the fact that he is. Well, you correlated him to LeBron James, and you said, well, he does the exact same thing that LeBron James is doing. No, LeBron James pretends that he is living a struggle. Trump does not. Trump says, I'm rich, I run a company, and I can help you get rich. He literally makes jokes about the fact that he's rich when he's at these events, and he's tossing jokes about, I'm a billionaire, I've done this. Like, he is the New York City stereotype billionaire who basically says, I run businesses, and I'm going to run this country like a business, and I'm going to lift you up, and I understand how trade works because I've been running a business. So I just fully reject that he's somehow cosplaying a blue collar worker. Blue collar workers are responding to him because he speaks in a way that they believe that he's going to uplift them. That's great. I'm happy we agree on that point, but you did try to correlate him to LeBron James 5 seconds ago, and that's just not the truth. But to respond to your point, because this has really bothered me, people pretending that those who have told the truth about the fact that Kamala Harris did sleep with Willie Brown and was not warranted to the position that she has, district attorney, pretending that this came up because she's running for president or because there's some element of misogyny. That is patently false. It was actually leftist newspapers at the time that she was running in Los Angeles. I pulled up these old articles in the San Francisco Chronicle who were scandalized. They felt that it was a scandal that she was being given so much power, that she was being put on boards that she did not deserve to be put on, and that she was being given those positions and making all that money not based on her merit, but because she was having an affair with Willie Brown. Again, These were the leftist San Francisco articles that were covering it at this time. You can go back, way back machine it, and read those articles yourself. So people point to the fact that she was essentially coronated because of who she was sleeping with in the past, and then now is essentially just being handed another position, not because people voted for her. I think it's relevant to the discussion of whether or not she is qualified for that position. That's fine. And the last thing I'll say is that I found it to be really alarming and borderline satanic in the manner that they ran to women and said, well, this is the election that hinges upon abortion. And I'm not saying this even as a critique of people that are pro-choice. I actually think they moved away from pro-choice. They went like pro-death. It was very bizarre. It wasn't like, the typical we are pro-choice and you are pro-life. They essentially were coming to women, and their only basis for saying to vote for her is, well, the only thing women could possibly care about is whether or not we have the authority to, murder our offspring. I don't think that actually resonated even on the left. They're not that radical on the topic of abortion to make your entire platform hinge upon it. And I think that's the reason why so many people who otherwise are okay with the pro-choice movement, we also saw in those exit polls, women moved away totally from the Democratic platform. I think it was a big mistake to hinge an entire election upon the topic of abortion in the way that they did.
Yeah, and Mark, before you respond to that, what I would say about that, and I was discussing this on a...
Okay, I would have to agree with Candace on that point, because for one, the Black women were not, that's not our main concern. Okay, that's not our main concern. Being able to keep abortion, to overturn, to bring back Roe v. Wade, that is not our main concern. It's about economics, okay? It is about being able to buy your groceries, being able to fill up at the gas pump and not having to struggle, being able to maintain your family and take care of your children as you see fit. That's what it's all about. It's not about this abortion thing. At the end of the day, I think too much effort was focused on that, and it was absolutely to their detriment. But let's continue.
A BBC interview last night, it seemed to me there was a real inconsistency, if not hypocrisy. On the one hand, Kamala Harris wanted to make the whole thing about, I represent women's rights, vote for me and I'll protect women's rights, and using abortion as her reason for that and bringing back abortion rights and so on. And that's fine, except that at the same time, she has also been actively promoting the issue, for example, of trans athletes in women's sport, which most people can see is an erosion of women's rights.
Now, let me just talk about what Pierce just said. This is absolutely true. And I've said that before. Me and my friend were discussing this some weeks ago. How do you say that you're all for women's reproductive rights and you're all for women's rights and all of this, but then you don't have a problem with trans women, people who are biologically born men, getting into sports with women, okay, where a woman got her skull literally cracked. Okay, there have been teenage girls who've lost their scholarships because they were beaten by someone who was biologically male. Okay, but how do you say that at the same time that this is fine and you're cool with this, and them coming into women's restrooms, okay, and at the end of the day, then you say, oh, you're all about women's rights and their rights to have their own bodies and abortion and all that. It makes no sense. It's nonsensical, and in fact, it's hypocrisy. So I have a problem with that myself, and I'll just be honest.
It's unfair, it's unequal. Last week, the United Nations said that 900 medals have been deprived from women athletes by trans athletes competing against them, which is obviously completely outrageous. And we saw the scenes in Paris where boxers with male chromosomes were literally beating up women in front of the world. I mean, the whole thing was grotesque. I don't know how the Democrats could consistently say to women, we are here for protecting women's rights, when at the same time they're advocating a direct attack on women's rights.
Yeah, I want to respond to that. I want to respond to the point that Candace made prior. Again, it wasn't me pivoting or shifting my position. I wasn't suggesting that Donald Trump or LeBron James were cosplaying. I'm saying that neither is cosplaying. I think my point is not that LeBron James is a legitimate poor person. My point is he's a rich person who is able to speak to the experiences of a poor person, someone who was dirt poor at one point, and now he's pivoted. That's what I'm saying he's doing. And I'm saying no matter what class position you're in, if your politics are right, then you can speak to the issue. That's all I'm saying. I was never suggesting the thing that you were representing me to have been saying. It sounds like it was just a miscommunication. So I actually don't disagree with you on the big point. As far as the race piece of this, or the misogyny piece of this, pointing to a left-wing newspaper and saying, well, look, it's not misogyny. A left-wing newspaper was questioning this. Left-wing newspapers are misogynist. Democrats are misogynist. Misogyny isn't a right-wing problem. It's a universal problem. So just because it's in a left-wing newspaper doesn't nullify
But it's a
the
valid
claim or negate.
critique. I'm sorry to cut you off. I don't like to cut you off, but I just want to say, do you not think it's a valid critique if somebody is given a job, not because they're qualified, but quite literally because they are sleeping with someone who gave them the position, which, like I said, caused a firestorm at that time? Do you not think it's a valid critique to say, well, they weren't even qualified to be the DA, and now all of a sudden they're trying to tell you that they're qualified to be the president of the United States? Don't you think that's a valid critique, like setting aside misogyny?
If that were the point I was making, I would agree with you. But that wasn't the point. That was an example you gave that wasn't responsive to the point I was making. I'm saying right now, as she's running for president, there are people saying she's unqualified for the office. I think it's much more of a reasonable question to raise. 20 years ago when she's running for DA, I didn't take issue with that, right? Although I don't know enough about the Willie Brown situation to speak to it. If what you're saying is true, then yeah, you should question that. But I'm saying right now in 2024, after serving as vice president, after serving in the U.S. Senate, after serving as a district attorney, after having all of these jobs, state attorney general, I don't think qualification is the right thing to raise. I think it's perfectly reasonable to say, I don't think she's good at this. I think it's perfectly reasonable to say.
Well, what about the point?
I think it's a different issue.
Let's move
to the trans point. To the trans point.
Yes.
I'm going to the trans point. To the trans point. I don't think it's a contradiction for Democrats to do that unless they accept the terms of your argument. Let me be clear. If you think that trans women are not women, then yes, it would be a violation of women's rights to say that trans women should be boxing. I happen to believe.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Mark.
I need to finish. No. I insist on.
Okay, I absolutely can't with Mark Lamont Hill. He sounds ridiculous. What did he just say? That would be a violation of trans women's rights? He sounds so nonsensical. It's pathetic. Like, why is he even on here? Okay, I'm sorry. He's making no sense to me. None. Okay, Divinity says, Queen, if they cut off all benefits, no freebies to illegals, they may take that free ride home after all. Okay, and here's the thing. Speaking of that, I do think that they will not be getting that money that they were getting under the Biden administration. I don't think that Trump's going to be giving them thousands of dollars in food stamps and thousands of dollars in cash. I don't think so. Okay. I just don't think so. I don't see it happening. But thank you for your insight into the topic, and thank you for your contribution to the channel, beloved. Peace, love, and blessings.
For finishing this point, because I will not be cut off and misrepresented. Let me make the point.
Craving a weight loss solution that's right for you. Lost treatment.
I happen to believe that biological males should not participate in women's sports. I am fine taking that position. Yeah, that's my point. Sometimes if you hear me out, you'll realize we're not even debating. But there are many Democrats who don't take that position. There are many people on the left who believe that, and let me be clear, I think trans women are women. I just think sports are divided in a very particular way. In 8th grade, we make a decision that we need to divide sports up by gender or by sex, right? Because we believe that there's something fundamentally different about biological boys and biological girls that say we shouldn't be running on the same track team. We shouldn't be boxing each other. I'm okay with that argument. I agree with that argument. I don't want to speak for Candace, but I suspect she agrees with me on this, and I suspect you agree with me on that. So we're not in disagreement on that. But just because I have that position doesn't mean that everyone who disagrees with me is being a hypocrite, because they don't begin from the same premise that I begin from. That's all I'm saying. So I don't think it's contradictory.
Hang on. All right, let me hang on. What other premise could there possibly be? The bottom line is these are people who were born biological males who are competing against biological females, and there's a reason why we don't do that in sport. It's why.
Let me say this, it absolutely is contradictory, because for one, as I already pointed out to you all weeks ago, how is the same people who was talking about it's going to be a pandemic of the unvenomized, okay, that's what Joe Biden said. He tried to blame it on the people who didn't get the venom. And when he said that, okay, he was pointing out people, targeting people at the end of the day, and making people feel that they had to do certain things. Okay, he was making people feel like they had to do it. Okay, so with that all being said, how do you then turn around and say, oh, people have the right to choose what they're going to do with their bodies? That's all contradictory as far as I'm concerned.
the Olympics have always separated the sexes, because the truth is, if they didn't, women wouldn't win any medals.
Look, I mean, listen, I know that
I think what you should do is bring someone in who has the position that you're trying to debate. It's like you're trying to force a debate with me on something that we agree on. So bring on somebody who has the opposite position, and they can speak for that. But what I'm saying is,
right.
That
I just wanted to add here, like, just to say where we do actually differentiate, like, trans women are absolutely not women. And that's why we're playing the crazy game right now, is because we have people that are trying to parse reality and say, well, I believe trans women are women, but they're also biological men. Like, the fact that we are calling them trans women, it is because they are not women. I am a woman, and no matter how you feel on the inside, you are never going to be a woman. And that disagreement, that fundamental disagreement, is the reason why we are playing the crazy game. I won't play it. I will not address a man that is in a dress as a woman. It's insulting to me. It's insulting to the things that actual women live through in their lives. And, you know, you can play Halloween, you can put lipstick on a pig. It is still a pig, and it is just Halloween. So I just feel very strongly about that. And I wanted to make that clear. And that this is a large part, though, Piers, going back to your point of why, because my sisters were on the left, and this is the first election that they voted for Trump. They're from Connecticut. Dyed in the wool Democrats, I guess you could say, and they moved away. And the trans issue was the #1 reason that they did.
Yeah.
And that's just the bottom line, okay? That had a lot to do with it, whether people want to believe that or not. There's a lot of women who, quite frankly, feel uncomfortable being in a restroom when someone who walks in there with a cucumber, okay? With a cucumber. There is a lot of women who are absolutely not for that, all right? So please pay attention. Now, Essential Oil Queen, thank you, beloved, for your contribution to the channel. Peace, love, and blessings.
What they said was happening in the school system made them fearful. They have sons. They thought it was completely crazy and bizarre that they're insisting upon trying to make toddlers. My sisters have toddlers believe that they can be anything that they want and that they're non-binary. They truly believe the left has gone crazy.
And let us not forget that I reported to you all, I think maybe it was on the backup channel, but let us not forget that basically, these children that were in elementary school were going into the restrooms pooping on the floor because they were saying that they identified as pets. Some were saying they were dogs. Some were saying they were cats. Because they obviously, with their little minds, children don't know any better. They think that if a boy can say he's a girl and a girl can say they're a boy, then I can say that I'm a cat or a dog. Do you all remember that report? It was all over the news, and they said they were going into the restrooms, pooping and urinating on the floor. These are children in elementary school. So clearly there's a bit of confusion, and all of this stuff is problematic to some of the parents. Okay, so please pay attention.
And they say, I didn't leave the left left me. And that is an accurate statement to make, because they cannot just see things that are just so plainly obvious. They're trying to criminalize the idea that a woman is a woman, and you can't just become a woman because you feel a certain way on the inside. And the right, like I'm doing right now, I will just say it as it is, right? You are not a woman. I am sorry that you are suffering from a mental disorder. If you were suffering from any other mental disorder, I would treat you the same way. I want you to get better. But because you are suffering from a mental disorder does not mean that I have to pretend that I have a mental disorder and that I see things differently. I don't.
I mean, Mark, I'll let you respond directly to what Candice says there. Well, let me just point out one thing. Let me just point out one thing. There was a New York Times report today that said that one of the most effective Trump ads during the presidential race towards the end was the one where he had Kamala Harris saying, she'll call you they, them, I'll call you you, or whatever it was. And that turned out to be, to the Trump campaign team's surprise, one of their most effective ads of the whole race, apparently, which suggests it is a much bigger issue than some Democrats clearly want people to think. I saw Joe Scarborough on this yesterday, very vocal, saying this trans issue has gone completely wrong. The Democrats should not be supporting this kind of thinking. And Bill Clinton, apparently, according to the New York Times, he directly tried to get the Democrats and Kamala Harris and her team to understand that they had to come out against this, but they didn't. And that is, I think, a big problem, particularly, as I say, the reason I think it's a big problem is if at the same time you're trying to say, I'm the person protecting women's rights. One of the reasons why so many women didn't vote for her may be because they just didn't buy it. Sorry, if you did, you wouldn't allow this.
Okay, so I absolutely have to agree. I absolutely have to agree. Okay, come rain, sleet, or snow. Now, with that all been said, we're about to be out of here, but I want you all to pay attention because you remember the story that I did about the black man who was found hanging. Okay, the black man who was found hanging, Janoris Richardson. I reported on the backup channel and I did an update on this channel. Now police ruled that that his death was an suicide. That's what they're saying. Okay, so let's go to that report. Let's go to that report because this is what they always say. Hold on. Okay, here we go. His wife is doing an interview.
You don't believe that your husband died by suicide. Tell me more about why you don't think that is the case.
Well, first of all, just in our faith, in our Christian faith, we have always taught our children, you know, that we considered suicide a ticket to hell. And just knowing him and his heart and his love for his children, he took being a father, a role model, very seriously. He was not only a good father, but he was also a mentor in the community. And he had many nieces and nephews that looked up to him. And
did he have any connection to this house?
No, not at all.
No. Was there any note or anything left?
No, not at all. Nothing. And that's the thing. He didn't even tell my children, you know, bye or anything that a loving father of his caliber would have done.
And you believe, and you don't have to say any names because I don't want to get you into any legal trouble, but do you believe that you know who's involved? Even if you don't say the name, do you know? You think you know? I'm
very suspicious of the circumstances that were happening in his life prior to his death. Yes, I do have hopes that the FBI and the Justice Department will look into all of the details. And also not only for Denoris, this is a huge issue in our community. I've had several people reach out since Denoris's death, and these are white, black, Latinos. There are several other instances where misconduct and excessive force has been brought into play.
We, of course, reached out to the Sheffield Police Department. They've not responded to requests for comment on the lawsuit.
With that all been said, again, my sincere and deepest condolences for her loss and the loss of her and to her children specifically, and herself for the loss of her husband, Denoris Richardson, because I find it very interesting and very suspicious too. Because this man, for those of you who missed it when I was reporting on this man was found hanging in an abandoned house in Alabama, and this was after he filed a complaint against the police or filed a lawsuit against the police for brutalizing him. Okay. And people in that community have said that these police do these things very often. This isn't the first case. Other people have also had run-ins with them, or the police have had run-ins with these other people. So this seems to be a problem. The FBI, in my opinion, definitely needs to go down there. Okay. That's what they need to do at the end of the day. So everyone, please like and share, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Be sure to click that notification bell and click the word all so you're notified each time the Queen Goddess goes live. I love you all to life. I hope you enjoy the rest of this beautiful day. And until next time, beloveds, each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive, but never destructive. And always remember to keep the Most High first in your lives. Peace.
Gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you're done. They show no love for the queen. Why you hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans? I got dreams like King Luther, shed blood like Kunsa. You ain't helping my people, I ain't got nothing to say to ya. I want all the smoke like hookah. Talking reparations, America won't be great until they give us compensation. I'm like, I'm the hottest right now. See a bunch of lames out here trying to jock on my style. They be doing too much. I'm the queen, it's too easy. It's like they all at Popeyes, how they be talking so greasy. I just sit back and laugh while these haters get madder. So nefarious how they don't roll my pockets with cheddar. I tell them they can do better. These snakes in the grass can leave a bite on your ass, cause y'all be trusting too fast. I got my foot on the gas, other one on they necks. Dropping receipts on haters, you better show some respect. I'm never facing regrets, we only facing the threats. Running through every challenge like a relay, break no sweat. It's a cold game, so I got that blanket with me. Now that my people awaken, ain't no going to sleep. I do not play by my piece, this time I'm playing for keeps. You talking slick, but when I see you like them ends, we gon' meet. And I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen, why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans and I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen, why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans and I got